Welcome to another episode of Reliance Real Estate Radio. We're kind of getting in a groove of doing these. We are still doing them on Zoom just to be COVID friendly, I guess, if that's what you want. I guess that's the right terminology. um, so we're trying to be as good as we can, sticking with all the mandates. So here we are. I think it's like negative 15 outside in Wisconsin here where we're recording from. So stay warm.
About a week of that left.
I kind of have a theme going here, keeping people motivated. And I found this, it was actually on a posting. And then I also found it on a shirt. And I was like, And a lot of times people like point blame at everybody, like, oh, but it's if you say it to yourself, the title in our theme is it's all your fault. Meaning if you accept the blame of what you did wrong, everybody has faults, no one's perfect. Taking the responsibility, when you've done something wrong, actually is a sign of maturity, right? And it shows respect for everybody around us. So that's how I'm going to kickstart it off. What do you got on that, Jeff?
All your faults. I agree that it is a sign of maturity. I also think if you start blaming others, you're not going to learn from maybe what your mistake was, right? Because then you start to think, it wasn't me who did it. It was that guy. So I'm going to continue doing what I'm going to do until it happens again, right?
Right.
So,
Not very trustworthy, right? I would say.
right, exactly. Especially when you're in business. And if something in a transaction and sales or whatever it may be, even product, if you start blaming other things when it was your fault, uh, you're going to start to lose customers, clients, because they no longer see you as trustworthy. So I
Right.
totally agree with your statement as not being trustworthy.
Yeah. I mean, don't have a poor me attitude, like everything's, happening to you, right? Because I mean, if you don't like your job, right, it's your fault. You chose that job, you chose to maybe have poor performance, right? If you're not doing good in school, it's most likely your fault, right? I mean, you could have a bad teacher, but the chances of that are pretty slim, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you could even do more research and just try harder at whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So you have to take 100% responsibility for your failures, your accomplishments, right? And
Yeah.
everything else that's going on in your life. Really, just you have to. It's your life, right? You have to take ownership of every action that you make, whether it's good or bad. Um, I mean, I was just talking to one of my sons the other day, and I said, he says, well, sometimes if I do something wrong, he's one of the older ones, and he said, does my siblings look at me and think that I'm bad? And I said, well, you could look at them and say, see what I did there? That was wrong, and I got in trouble for it. So don't do that. And that would show maturity, right? And he looked at me and he was like, that makes sense. And I'm like, and then you're internalizing that you actually did something wrong. So therefore, when you go to do it again, it's probably going to not happen. You know what I mean? Because you're
Yeah.
not pushing the blame on somebody else, right? Because you're taking ownership of what you did wrong. And then you're learning from the mistake, which we talk about many times, failing forward, right?
Yeah. I think even owning up to it, I forget there's a podcast and with a bunch of different people with the same guy, and I cannot remember his name, but he it was basically owning up to your mistakes. I, if I could find it, maybe I'll tag it in the notes here.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, that'd be
uh,
great.
he was basically saying that it also helps you grow as a person, you
Mhm.
know, or else you're going to start living some kind of lie, and then they start to build up
Oh, yeah.
because start blaming other people for something that you actually did, I mean, you're not being trustworthy, which we're talking about. You're not going to grow. I think it's getting yourself out of your comfort zone. It'll help you handle confrontation a lot better when you start to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
I
a
mean, your
lot.
relationships alone with people, if they know you for being 100% all in and trustworthy and owning your mistakes, right? I think there's the shirts, they say own it, meaning
Yeah,
like own everything that you do, right? Like own it, own the court, own what your job. I know
yeah,
they say like when you start a new business and maybe you're being an entrepreneur or a real estate agent or a loan officer or doing something where you're not like W-2'd, you're 1099, like you have to earn a commission type stuff. Like they say fail forward and fail fast, right? Like you're going to make a crap ton of mistakes, but own all those mistakes, learn from them, right? Don't burn bridges in the process. Like if you screwed up like with somebody and say, hey, that's my fault. Like we learned that early on in real estate. Because if you just leave it and don't say anything or maybe make a mistake and then blame it on somebody else, it's always going to come back and bite you in the where,
mhm,
like just own it and say like, hey, this is what's happening. Or like, even if it's not your fault, but you're the real estate agent in the transaction and your job is to go to the other person, right? Or, you can relate this to just about any business. Like you're working with multi different facets, different people, all these working parts, right? And like, hey, this is what happened. Let's just get in front of it and figure it out. Like, how many times do we have that conversation? Like, oh, so and so dropped the ball, or oh, this happened, or title uncovered this, and this is what we need to do. Instead of going, whoa, me, and oh, darn, we're not going to make it to the closing table. It's like, how can we get in front of this, and what can we do to get
yeah,
to the closing table, right? Like,
yeah,
that's a fail. It's I take it as it's my fault because it's my transaction that I'm in charge of, right? And I'm the listing agent on that one, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make it happen, right? I'm taking ownership of even that other person's actions and going, okay, let's see what we can do to fix this. Don't worry about it. Thanks for owning up and giving me a call. Now let's try to repair what we got to do.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we make those phone calls at least once a week, once a month.
All the time.
With the amount of transactions that we go through, it's going to happen. And I don't like it when it waits till the last minute and then it's like that person didn't own it, so it was their fault and they didn't own it. And it's like teachable moment, like, hey, dude, if you would have just brought that up, we've already dealt with that and we could have fixed it. Now
Yeah,
we are putting all these people out of homes for a little while and putting the brakes on everything and backpedaling. Like it's easier just to get it out, let the cat out of the bag right away, and then fix it, than trying to hold off on bringing it to light.
yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And
So own it
we
out
learned
there.
that
Own
early
it.
on. Just,
It's your fault.
it's my fault.
Ugh.
I know I'm going to hear this the rest of the day. And, I'm working from home. I got my office door closed, and I'm sure my kids will be like listening through the door and they'll be like, it's your fault, Dad.
All your fault, buddy. Just kidding.
So I always do a quote, and I actually found this to be pretty similar and actually fit for this specific podcast video that we're doing. But it's by Henry Ford. Probably heard it a million times, especially if you're in our business. But whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And I think if you kind of bring that to it's your fault, whether you blame it on somebody else or take ownership of it, I mean, no one's going to know the difference until it comes to the light of day, right? So, like, just do the right thing, um, move forward, right? And, don't get down on yourself, whether you think you can do it or you can't, just do it anyways. No decision is a decision, right? Like, these are all things that we're trying to just get across to you, little life nuggets that we try to drop for you weekly. So share this with somebody, please, or
Yeah,
smash the like button, heart, high five, thumbs up, whatever you want to do. I don't know.
yeah, we definitely appreciate it. We'd love to see this podcast grow.
This is episode 43. If you'd like some other content, let
What?
us know. But we're being consistent.
That's right.
All right. Till next time.
Thanks, everybody.